Can you guys hear me? Hello, check. Check one, check.
No,
Check.
it's not gonna work.
Checks in the mail, check.
I'm gonna have to grab my beanie.
Can you grab your beanie?
Do you want
Do you want to
earphones?
wear my beanie?
Do you want
I got my beanie
a
right on
cowboy
the table.
hat?
Okay.
How about a top hat? Would you like a bandana? We could just wrap a blanket around your head.
Apple, I can grab you earbuds, and that
Apple,
way you can wear.
he can grab you earbuds, and that way you could wear your hat.
He wants that.
Okay.
Ryder's gross, earwaxy earbuds jammed in your ears.
Long distance runner, what you standing there for? Get up, get on, get out of the door. You're playing cold music on the barroom floor. Drown in your laughter and dead to the core. There's a dragon with matches that's loose on the town. Take a whole pail of water just to cool him down. Well, fire, fire on the mountain. 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 Almost a place, still you don't feel the heat. It takes all you got just to stay on the beat. You say it's a living, we all gotta eat. But you're here alone, there's no one to compete. If Percy's in business, I wish it for you. More than just ashes when your dreams come true. Fire, fire on the mountain. Fire, fire on the mountain. Fire, fire on the
You
mountain.
guys had you really have this.
Fire,
It brought me back too because
fire on the
I don't really go to too many kind of shows like dead shows and things like that anymore. But when I was younger, like I kind of got turned on by the Grateful Dead. And
Really?
Yeah. Like so my story with that is that it had to be maybe 1998 or something. I was in 8th grade and my friends and I just started smoking weed. And we're like, okay, we would smoke weed, we'd hang out at the mall, and there was this store, Spencer's Gifts.
Oh yeah, those Spencer's gifts, man.
Yeah. And we would just go in there high and just be blown away by all this black light stuff and posters. And we found Grateful Dead T-shirts with this, the logo with the skull, their logo, and we were just like, that is so cool. So we're like, well, we smoke weed, so I guess this is what we're supposed to do is listen to the Grateful
That makes
Dead.
sense, right?
So yeah,
I like that reasoning.
that was it. We didn't know. We were 12, 13 years old, whatever. And so we'd go back to one of my friend's house. He was the kid that his parents just let us do whatever we wanted, So we chill in his room and get baked with black lights and stuff. And the first album that we put on was Skeletons from the Closet. And
That seems to be the one that does it for a lot of people, man. That particular album has a lot of mojo in it.
yeah, I forget what's the first song on that album, but it's like the
You got me. Here, I'll look it up.
I think it's one of their earliest songs too. Whatever it was, it just hit me, and I was just like, "Whoa!"
Yeah, it has a way of doing that, man. There's something peculiar about the Grateful Dead that I don't even know how to really quantify it. You have to be in the right
Golden Road.
Yeah, you have to
Golden
be in the
Road.
right place at the right time, in the right headspace, with the right people, and all of a sudden it just changes. I always said, like,
So if it's that particular, how does it happen so many times?
I don't know.
You know what I'm saying,
yeah.
Mike? Right? Like if it's that specific, like you got to be that 13-year-old kid that's smoking pot that walked into Spencer's, that saw that T-shirt, that listened to the Golden Road and is now like, holy shit. Like those are pretty specific. But your friend was in there, those coordinates too, and Aaron was in those coordinates. You know what I mean? Like it is certainly specific, but not that unusual.
Yeah, it's kind of amazing to me that it reached us in like 1998, like, you know, in this specific location, in this specific situation. It reached us, communicated to us, and we were just wearing tie-dye shirts and doing all this stuff, and then eventually going to some shows. Unfortunately, not any Grateful Dead shows after Jerry passed away, but it was still it was something for us. It was something for us to like gather around. So when I tuned into your guys' show, I was like, whoa, these guys are like kind of making this like a community, like sitting on the porch and like telling these stories and like having interesting people here, and like there was just a really cool vibe that I got. And so and I wanted to like, I just want to know your story. I want to hear, you know, from your perspective, like what your deal is and how you guys got started and what led you into this. What was your first experience that I think you mentioned on the show, the aha, oh yeah moment, right? Like what was that for you?
Wait a minute. If we take it to the show, not our individual stories, but like what's our show's aha moment, that's even trippier because I think we're just barely having it right now.
Yeah. I for me, going back, I was a punk rock kid in Vegas in the 80s and doing psychedelics all the time with Apple. And, you know, having those experiences by ourselves in a room. And, you know, when the music starts to speak to you and you're having that trip, it can feel very singular. It can feel very private. And I felt like it was only us. Like we had found this secret in the music that nobody else had found. And it was this place that we could go to. And fast forward a few years, a friend of mine talked me into going to a Dead show. I hated the Grateful Dead. I was like,
oh, really?
Fuck trucking. Country music sucks. I am not. I don't want to see a 45-minute trucking like that.
And Aaron was into punk, and I was into like the other spectrum. I was metal, like Metallica, Ozzy, everything like that. And we both did not like the Grateful Dead.
Yeah, it was just a thing. But he was like, "Look, you need to go, and I'm going to buy you a ticket." And I was like, "Okay." And I went and got puddled in the lot. And walked into my first show wearing a Misfits t-shirt and had a mohawk, and walked in and they were playing Feel Like a Stranger. And there's all these people spinning and dancing, and the collective consciousness of the room was exploding, and I lost my shit. I was like, oh my God, all these people found the same thing that we found. There's a huge community of us out there. And it's okay to be me. Holy shit. And I was sprung from that moment. Like literally after that show, I went back to his house and I said, I'm going back to Las Vegas. I'm selling all my shit. I'm buying a school bus and I'm going on tour. Like I want to know everything there is to know about this thing. And
I thought he lost his mind. Which he did. In the right way. Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes losing your mind is okay in the right way. Yeah.
Yeah. And so fast forward, I mean, you know, multiple years later, fast forward, we moved from Las Vegas to Portland, and we didn't all live together in Vegas. We decided to do this communal living and see what happened up here. And there was no podcast at that point.
But there was always thought of. Hold on, my mic.
Sorry, Mike.
I was too relaxed and my mic got fucked up. But we moved out to Portland with the hope, not the hope, we knew we were going to open up a farm or a spa or a retreat or some type of place that people could come and like just feel treated. And we decided if we all moved in together and we all pooled our resources, we all wanted to be together in our older years anyway. Like, we love each other. We're family. If we want to go to a concert, we want them to come with us, you know? So instead of living separate and making it harder on all of us, why not live together and pool our resources? And so we started meeting right before we moved here every week in our old Las Vegas house with a plan to come up here and make some shit happen. But the podcast was never in it.
Yeah, that was never really.
We didn't even think of that. Or
I had, I think, said it. I was going to design school in Vegas, and I was like, yeah, it'd be cool to have a podcast one day. And that was it. But after we moved up here, we'd been here maybe 6-8 months, maybe a little longer. And Father's Day rolled around, and I have a 16-year-old son.
it was a year.
Yeah,
Father's Day was
maybe a little over a year.
2017.
And he got me a snowball mic for Father's Day. And he said, hey, Dad, you know, you guys are always sitting out on the porch talking about the Grateful Dead. Why don't you start a podcast? And I was like, okay. And so I had never done anything like that. I'd never like told my story to anybody or shared what's
but
going on.
Mike, he comes from a completely entertainment background. Everybody in his family, to some degree or another, is on stage, behind the camera, writing the scripts, creating the story. So, like, he is a storyteller.
No.
And
So it's your destiny.
yes,
Sort of.
yeah,
I guess.
for
It
sure.
just turned into that.
He would always says, like, you know, he wanted to like shy away from the limelight because his, you know, parents were in it, but he's just as much in it as they are. Like, you breed that and you grow up around that, you can only see your kids living that as well.
Yeah,
So
true.
he started it, and me, Ryder, and Apple just kind of defaulted into it.
Well, yeah, you live in the same house. It's hard to be out here on the porch by myself.
Yeah, and then when the first episode, Aaron, we didn't even know he was doing it. He came out, did it by himself. It was all just him. And then we listened to it, and he was like, okay, let's do ours. Of like, and then rewind back to that. Aaron, 2 years after he got in the Grateful Dead and was on the road, I thought my buddy lost his mind and become a dirty, stinky hippie.
Oh,
and,
yeah, I did.
you know, I lost my brother. He finally got me to go to a show in 91, was my first show in Vegas. And same thing, I walked in all, you know, metal and like, yeah, whatever, dude, I'll go because you're my bro. And same thing, got totally turned out. They walked in like dirty hippie, oh, it stinks, patchouli, blah, 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 blah. And then walked out after dosing. I took mushrooms. I took a hit of acid. I like did everything, walked out like, I love everybody, and completely changed and was on the bus with Aaron. And then, you know, then come to up here and doing the podcast. The second episode, we sat down and told kind of our story after he told his on the first one.
And then
It's really appropriate because Aaron and Apple have been in a relationship way longer than
Yeah, we've been
me and
friends.
Aaron have.
I was 14 and Aaron was 12.
33
when we
years.
met.
Yeah, they've been together for 33 years, Mike.
This is amazing what you're saying, and you know, like what I'm hearing from Aaron, what you said about like just walking into that first show and like feels like a stranger, and like, you know, you didn't feel that way. You felt like you found something, that there was this community, and then like from you guys all deciding to move to Portland and get this house, and then like living together and pooling your resources, and then starting the show, and then everyone coming together at the show. It's like, man, that resonates so much with people, because I think everybody wants that, you know, like everybody wants to be a part of something and like have a family, extended family and friends that share things together. And so, yeah, I mean, what initially, I guess, like when you guys first decided, you know, what was it about Portland that attracted you there, first of all?
That's Aaron.
Yeah,
Aaron all the way.
I had lived up here in the early 90s with a buddy of mine up in Seattle. And it's funny, man. I didn't know this before, but when my great-grandfather emigrated from Russia to the United States, they came to Portland, Oregon. I never knew that. And so when I came to the Pacific Northwest, I felt at home up here. And it was great on one hand, and on another hand, it wasn't, because I would go home to Vegas and feel out of place, out of my own skin, like just unsettled. But then we'd come up here on vacation and I felt like I could finally breathe. Like the clothes that I owned finally made sense. And the person that I wasn't strange here. But in Vegas, I was like a sore thumb. And so when we started talking about doing our thing and moving, it was Seattle or Portland. And we came up here for New Year's Eve, and because we wanted to go like when everybody says it's the worst time to go, to find out how bad it can be. And I had that experience here. I was like, I can breathe. I feel like I'm grounded. I feel like I can move, and I'm part of it, as opposed to like being separated and like a ghost moving through the city that I live in. And so I told everybody about it and got them on board. You know, like, guys, I need this.
We had vacation in
Nice,
Seattle.
rallied the troops.
Yeah, we
I need
vacationed in Seattle, and with Apple. Apple is always and has been our vacation uncle for all of our vacations when the kids were little. And so, like I said, this relationship with Aaron and Apple runs deep, and Aaron and Apple and me, and Aaron and Apple and the kids, and like, so you're talking about people wanting like family and to be part of something. Like, we just talk about being it and then also do it. Like, it's not a secret. You know what I mean? It's not like a longing underneath the skin. It's like, yeah, let's do this. Let's get together. Come over. Let's bring your friend. Let's hang out. Like, it's always about building up the community. That way, I know anybody who ever steps through my front door, they are supposed to be at my house, and it is home for them.
And it's funny too, Mike, about No Simple Road, is that when I did the first episode and put it out, I like had a panic attack. I put the show out
straight up panic
and
attack.
Mel and I went to the grocery store, and I was in the grocery store like, oh my God, what did I just do? Everybody can hear that, and like my insides are out, and for everybody to see, and just freaking out. And
it was like the moment where you got to like, you know, slap somebody or throw cold water on their face or something like that. Like, it was like hysteria.
Yeah, he was ready to pull it down.
Yeah.
And was like, this is a bad idea.
But it's funny because in you asking me like, how did it start? It was really organic because there was never an agenda behind it. It was just, let's just do what we do every day, but we just happen to have a microphone there. And that's how it all started. And then through that is how we started like, well, it would be cool to talk to this artist or this musician and have them here on the porch with us. Like, we look up to these people and want to know about them. And there's this ability now with social media and all that to contact them. So why not try? And then it started happening. And behind that, this community started.
Snowball effect.
Boom.
And it was weird too because
They call that a callback in the comedy world.
I like callbacks.
And when it started, it was weird too because, like, I mean, you do a podcast. I mean, podcasting's it's still new, and I had no I knew Aaron always liked Stern. And then it was Joe Rogan podcast is really the only one I knew.
Trussell.
And Duncan Trussell. Aaron got me to listen to a few, but I never listened to him. Then when he said that we're going to do a podcast, it's like, oh, okay, why not? Let's, I didn't know, we none of us knew what this was going to become.
Yeah.
And how crucial, how much of our life it is.
Definitely not contrived.
There's a lot of time commitment to this thing.
Yeah, totally. I know what you're saying too. Like, I always have these kind of panic attacks when I release podcast episodes, especially when it's just me. If I'm doing a solo show, I'm like, holy shit, I can't believe I revealed so much, or I put all that out there. And, but then I started getting feedback from people, and you get feedback from people, and you guys have experienced this, oh, that really touched me, or that really moved me, or that was really crucial or important for me to hear that. And you're like, oh shit, like, I'm not like going through this alone. I'm not weird. Like, there's other people out there that are going through these experiences. And just like you were inspired, I was inspired by Joe and Duncan too. And it's like, man, what if they never turned the microphones on? It's like, then maybe you wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be here. And then, from what I'm doing, from what you're doing, like, I'm sure there's people that are inspired that are going to do their own stuff. And, because of what you're doing. And in a way, it's kind of like the extension of this deadhead kind of like vibe and atmosphere of like just creating things and just making things and just jamming with people that you groove with, and like, you know, that energy just carries, right?
Totally. And the thing that one of the most impactful, profound, life altering things that's happened for me through the show, because doing the podcast has been a magical act for me. I've been into ritual magic for years. And,
oh, wow.
Yeah. And so
Let's talk more about that. Yeah.
Okay. Doing the podcast has been very magical, ritually speaking, for me. It's transformed who I am in really significant ways. And like, I think the most significant thing that I can talk about is that label of deadhead. I carried that for so long as like my badge of honor. Like, I earned this thing through hard psychedelic tripping and being out on the road and like doing the thing. You know what I mean? I earned that badge of deadhead. And last summer we were at the gorge seeing fish, and I had a moment in the middle, tripping really hard. And I had a moment in the middle of the show where that just fell away. I realized, you know what? I'm limiting myself by labeling myself. I've put myself in a box all these years by calling myself a deadhead, so that everything that I listen to, see, touch, taste, feel is filtered through this lens of like, it has to fit into this deadhead paradigm, right? And it fell away, and I realized, you know what? No, I'm a music fan. I'm a person that loves music, and also that space, that psychedelic space where the crowd and the band come together and you're having that telepathic communication, and what you're feeling is what the band's playing, and what the band's playing, what you're feeling, and all that coming together in that soup. That's who I am. Not Deadhead or Fishhead or Widespread Panic fan or whatever. I'm just a fan of the music. I'm a person that loves to be in the groove. And that, I think, out of everything that's happened with the show, personally, that's like my biggest milestone for me so far. It's like, wow, I realized that I'm not what I thought I was all these years.
Yeah, wow. I can relate to that. That's powerful, because I think everyone can relate to that, right? It's like we all kind of tell these stories about ourselves and like, oh, but you know, I'm this kind of person or that kind of person, and you know, a psychedelic person wouldn't talk about these sorts of things, or you know, this a comedian wouldn't say this kind of thing. And it's like, wow, you're totally just limiting yourself. But I think that's kind of a natural like progression. You know, I think maybe when I started the show, I was kind of copying maybe like a Joe Rogan or something like that. And then eventually, you know, as you know, you kind of find your own voice, find your own groove, and you're like, oh, okay, cool. Like I can like really create something here that's new and unique. And yeah, I think you did that. And like, just going back to the being the music fan and that moment, yes, that moment that you described, I've experienced so much, and it's like you just want to bottle it up and give it to everybody.
Yes,
yeah. That's the feeling,
the
right?
evangelistic effect.
Yeah, man, and it's funny too, because I think for a lot of my life, as you could see, like that thing, that music space and that psychedelic space has affected and touched my life so much that I've tried to spread it to my friends and my family, and like, come on, man, you guys got to come with me. This is fucking awesome. Like, come see this thing. And also, like, being married for 21 years to Mel, it was, up until a couple of years ago, not a point of contention with us, but a disconnect in our relationship where I never felt like she got it like I got it. You know what I mean? And I think recently with us, within the past couple of years, I don't care if she gets it like I get it. She gets it like she gets it. And realizing that too. Oh yeah, she's definitely on the bus.
Well, Aaron's personality is such that he's very dominant. He likes to always drive. He's going to decide what hotels we stay in.
He drove a bus 2 years straight. Right?
Yeah, man. Thank you, Mike.
And I'm not, there's no flaw with that, because I'm the personality who's like, good, be in charge, because I'm going to do whatever the hell I want while you're doing all the grown-up stuff. So that's how our relationship works perfectly. But with the point of contention that he was talking about was like, I didn't have that moment last year because I been knowing that moment my whole life. I love music. I love to dance any groove. I don't care if it's Jamaican or Australian or frickin' funk, or if it's a good groove, I'm gonna jive to it. So I didn't have like these like big aha moments with the Dead. What I had was big aha moments in my life with them as my background music.
Oh shit.
And so what's cool about that is that, like, look, I don't know all those people's names that are on there, and I don't know about statistics. Okay, now I do. Okay, Mike. Aaron just looked at me and looked
I was gonna
back
say, like,
at me
when
and was
you
like,
started,
"You're right."
when we were going to shows,
Wait,
and
what
Mel
kind
started
of
calling
statistics?
songs, and we knew she was.
Well,
It was like, oh, she didn't even realize it. Me and Aaron looked at me like, she just called a song, dude.
That's my girl.
There's definitely been some proud papa moments that Aaron and I had, but yeah, like I've always I was raised as such as my mom was like, look, don't be wearing anybody else's name brand shit. Don't be representing anybody. Like, so she would never buy us like Tommy Hilfiger or Guess or any of that. She was like, if you want something, and put your own name on it. And so I just kind of had that always in the back of my head as a mentality. And so I never really allowed myself to be a big fan of anything, but I can appreciate everything, you know? So I love R&B. I love hip hop. I love jam music. I love spa music. I love all of it, you know? And so when he had that moment, I was there, and it was, for me, was like, he just fucking got on the bus. That's what I felt like.
Yeah.
And he's getting on the bus, and I'm like, damn, you finally got here. Yes. And it wasn't like in your face or anything. It was just like,
It was sweet.
it was very sweet. It was sweet, and then it was warm, and the breeze hit us just right, and the sunset.
And it got captured on. Somebody
and my
captured the
sister
picture of it.
literally captured. She
The
snapshotted that. So there's a photograph
Oh,
of
wow.
Aaron and I's moment, and it's amazing. We captured a peak experience in Aaron and I's marriage that day on film. Yeah.
That's amazing. Is that public?
Yeah.
Is that-
I'll send it to you.
Yeah.
I'll send
Oh,
it
that's
to you.
that's awesome.
Yeah, Aaron's
That's
silhouetted and
great.
has his arms up in the air, like it was like a championship fighter that just knocked somebody out or something. He's got his hands in the air.
Dude,
with
it
the
makes me. I like
silhouette
thinking
around
about
him.
the moment. It made like I tearing up thinking about it. Like it was like that rocking and that deep set. Like I don't even like a. Shit, I can't think of a word for it. Just like a groove in my mind.
Momentous.
Mike, he was like, yes! Like, it only reminded me of like the equivalent of like a soccer player, like football, not soccer, you know? Like,
Yeah. Like
yeah,
when they
there's
score a
that-
goal.
yeah, that aggression and like the veins popping out in the neck and like, yeah! Like, because it was like gone. And it felt, like he said, it was sweet. It was like, it was kind of orgasmic in a mental way, in an emotional way. It was like, you know, it was awesome that it was Fish because they were just so fun that night and so kick-ass, but it was just everything around us. It was the culmination. It was like the popping of the zit, you know, like
And that whole thing, that whole experience, that trip was a great family moment because we brought Melanie's younger sister along who doesn't do the sacrament like we do, but she's like, I want to see what you guys do, and she captured like that moment. And she, when she left the show, she did nothing other than had a beer or
She
something.
got a good buzz.
She
It
was
a big
high,
beard.
but she was high from the collective crowd, and she would like looked at all of us, was like, "I'm so glad I came. I get it.
I get it. I
This
get
is
why you
so
guys do this all the
fun."
time.
And she's going now. She's like, "You guys aren't going out without me next time."
That's awesome. Yeah, you could just get high off that buzz, that energy, that collective, spirit, the will to be alive and to just be a human and enjoy in this magical moment. It's so powerful. And like sometimes, like this has happened for me. Like sometimes I just didn't get something for a while, and there's been all these opportunities for me to get it along the way, and it just didn't really penetrate my consciousness. And I had this intellectual understanding of like, okay, maybe I could see why somebody might, like this or like that or whatever. But then there's the emotional like understanding where you just get it in like every cell of your body. And sometimes Sometimes it just needs the right time to shine, you know? It's just waiting for the right moment.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And it's funny to me what you just said, because understanding something and knowing something are two completely different things.
Yeah.
And that it becomes visceral at that moment of understanding where, like you said, it's feeling attached to the intellectual knowledge of it. You could feel it moving you and touching you in a way that it never did before. And that's the thing for me that keeps me going back to it over and over again. Aside from the community aspect of it, aside from the fun of it, it's being in that moment where nothing matters. Your job doesn't matter. Your bills don't matter. There's no moment except for that moment. And you're alive. And it's happening.
Yeah.
And that's it. That's all that matters. And that's what's kept me going for 30 plus years back over and over again.
Yeah, you nailed it. You nailed it. It's you're really alive. I felt that one of the first like really profound LSD experiences I had was at a music festival, and I felt like this, like, oh my God, like I'm finally like alive. Like I feel like I
Right?
like this veil has been lifted, this curtain was like pulled away, and it was like, oh shit, like I'm actually like real. Like this is real. Like this is cool.
And connected to something bigger than me.
Yeah.
And the thing with the show is once that started sinking in, and then at the same time, we're still doing the podcast, right? It's happening. We're doing it. We're, interviewing musicians and getting feedback from people, and like all that stuff is going on. I realized, like, now what? What are you going to do about it? Are you just going to be in it and that's it? Or are you going to do something with the gift that you've been given to be able to be a part of this thing? And I think that's what's grown out of starting No Simple Road, is that desire to connect our family with each other. Because there's so many of us, Mike, that are feeling like that. And it's usually like personal within our crew. Like we'll go to a festival or go to a show and we have an experience with each other, and then we only share it with each other. It's like this secret club. And I felt like, you know what? Fuck that. There's so many of us out there filling stadiums for 4 or 5 days in a row. Like, why can't we all talk about what's going on? Why is it not okay? And
Right.
It's amazing how quickly we found that out with the podcast, because I'm sure you did the same thing. Like we were talking about, like, oh shit, this is out here. I'm nervous. It's amazing how quickly the feedback started coming. Because we were there's several times we were like, I don't know if all of us had doubts. Melanie did, I did, Ryder did.
Still do.
It was all like, I don't know if I want to share myself. But then every time, all of a sudden, the community started growing, and it's amazing how things start to get in like synchronicity. We'd be out here like kind of like, I don't know, and then all of a sudden, oh my God, look at this email I just got from a fan, and we'd read it, and that has kept us going. Like keeps the train going. Every time something kind of starts to go wrong, something amazing happens.
Yeah.
And like Aaron said, the big thing that's happened with the show too, with what me and Aaron out of us are the ones that were stuck on that day. Nothing's the Grateful Dead. I only listen to certain things, and this now we go to so many shows where, we just enjoy so much music and going to the shows. There's such a beautiful, awesome, growing music scene out there.
Yeah, it's amazing. Can you, any of you guys who want to share, like, are there any particular moments that you can recall that you're willing to share that, like, you were like, oh no, like, I don't know if I want to, talk about this, or I feel weird saying this, or anything that really, like, comes to your mind,
Yeah.
Immediately.
Yeah, because, as with the privacy thing and the unveiling of yourself, like, we really are kind of like standing with our jackets open, naked underneath on this show, because this is our life. Like right now, I'm sitting on the porch taking time out of my day right before work to do this, but it's part of my life, like this exact thing. So it's not like bad or good, but it's part of my life. So
He was talking about a moment where you were like, "Oh shit."
One of those moments was I got a little heated with Aaron on
On the show.
Yeah.
on the show, and it was
Oof.
you know it was just like really a good way of attacking somebody bitchy, and
Yeah, like she was taking low blows.
yeah, I was definitely
Oh, man.
I was definitely hitting below the belt, and I was like, Aaron and I were alone. I was like, yeah, I don't think that I want you to put that on there. Like
I don't want that energy out
yeah,
there. is what
I
you
was like,
said.
I don't. That's what I said. I was like, I don't want that energy out there. I don't want to have that bad feeling about you out there over and over. And he was like, okay, if you want.
We were gonna cut it.
And then we went to Ryder and Apple about it, and they're like, no, what are you talking about?
It was
and
Thriving in
Erica and
Tie-Dye,
Tim,
yeah.
from Thriving in Tie-Dye. We talked to them. They happened to be staying with us, and it was about Aaron's, being a heroin addict and lying and whatever. Like it was like this whole thing, which is totally fine to talk about. But at the time, it rubbed me the wrong way, and the way that I talked to him, and just kind of like it was just like I said, low blow. And Erica was like, I would say put it out. She's like, a lot of the times when you are a little bit controversial about something like that, people are going through that and they can identify with that, and it helps them. It helps them figure out like their situation. It helps them see it from another point of view. It gives them the comfort that they're not alone. So it's like all of these like emotional things that it's helping. So leave it on. And so,
And she happened to be having a moment
yeah.
that she said
yeah.
that helped her with.
Yeah.
And we ended up putting it out.
Yeah, we did.
And immediately started getting
What episode is that?
Oh shit! I think
It's
it's the
their
one
episode?
It's the one right before
Thriving in
Erica.
Tie-Dye
It's either the
episode.
Thriving in Tie-Dye episode or the one right
Here,
before.
I'll
Mel's looking
look
it up.
while we talk.
Yeah. But
Yeah,
as,
no
as,
problem.
as soon as we put it out, like the next morning, I wake up and there's like 3 emails to us about like, thank you guys so much for putting that out. I'm going through that with my partner, and hearing somebody else going through the same thing really helped, and blah blah blah. And like, it's hard, man. It's hard when you.
And I don't know why feedback keeps you motivated. Like, what is it about somebody
Connections.
saying?
And
It's
it's always
connection.
good to hear that you're doing something that's helping people. Like, that's why I've always erred on the side of just air it. Like, I've cried on the show.
Yeah, we are
I
an
use it
emotional
as a-
bunch.
No.
as a form of catharsis and just a way of getting things off my chest and out into the world instead of just holding on to it. And if that helps people, fantastic. But
I agree with that. That's totally true. And it's like, when you kind of do those things, you realize more and more that we're all very similar, at least a lot of us are. And that, that it is like we're a human family. So you're sharing your humanness, and there's other humans out there that are like, oh my God, me too.
You're human too.
That's
No way.
yeah, that's part of the movement, I think, right now, this podcasting thing, and YouTubers or Instagram people. Like, if anybody who's out there who's like sharing their human experience, it's like, fuck, man, yeah, like I'm not alone. Like,
No.
I never counted on the show doing that for me. I was like trying to keep it separate, like, but I don't. In some way, I'm able to compartmentalize things in my head, and maybe that's called denial. I don't know, but I'm really good at it.
Well, it could also be called compartmentalization.
Yeah.
which
Yeah,
is
that's
good,
definitely
which is
what
useful.
I absolutely do that. I totally do that, and it's great for some things, and then for other things, I started to realize, like, okay, Melanie, like, you have one identity. You're very many. Like, there's a lot of things that can make up that identity, but you have a lot of them, and it's okay. And so the show has helped me to be able to be my whole self in my entire life. I don't have to go to work and be someone different. I don't have to talk different on the podcast. I don't have to behave different with my family. Like, in my entire life, I can be all of Melanie. And that's what the show's helped me to do. It's like resolve all the different parts of myself.
And it's been
That's
awesome to
amazing.
see that. It's been awesome to see Melanie do that because kind of in the beginning, if you listen back to show, there's a point where I don't think it was ever on the show, but she was like, I don't really have anything to say. People don't want to hear.
There was a lot of the guests I didn't know, like, because I never was into the, this is, the drummer from so and so, or this. I didn't know that. So as
It's a
individual
good drummer,
people,
so and so.
yeah, I know.
They rock. Don't miss it.
Yeah, I didn't have it.
They rock hard.
Totally. I didn't even know. So we're getting these like amazing people that I had no clue about. And so I wasn't nervous or scared or anything because I didn't know him from Joe down the street. Like Joe, at least I knew was cool because, we talked about his garden or something. But
Yeah, that added another level to the interviews because of Melanie not knowing and us knowing.
Right, yeah, like the outsider's perspective.
Yeah,
that's
she's
good.
just like, well, I want to know about your 4-year-old son. Tell me about him. I don't
yeah,
care
'cause
about
then
the
it-
music.
I want to know about your guitar rig. Yeah, no.
Yeah, what pedal effects do you use?
It's
we
a
were going to
weird.
tell him
It's,
what episode that was.
it was.
Oh.
It was episode 72.
Oh, cool.
for
Okay,
us.
cool. Yeah,
And it's
yeah. I'll make sure people check that out.
cool, man. It's the
It's
intro.
in the
It's
intro,
just
yeah.
the intro. Yeah, it's not in the show. but-
Ah, hell of a way to start a show, too.
yeah,
Yeah.
it was a
We-
trip,
We
man.
have a few of those.
And it's Mel's talking about like compartmentalization and all that, and another aspect of it too, Mike. And I think you maybe have experienced this too. We just spoke to Duncan again yesterday. And,
Oh, nice.
And when we were getting ready to go, he said something, and it dawned on me that, God damn, he's right. Like, I've had these experiences, and Apple has too, at shows where you realize that you are now that old gray bearded dude that you looked up to 20 years ago. And that there's this, like, I don't want to say a level of respect almost that you get because you've been in it a long time, and which is weird all by itself. I don't even know what that means, but I've experienced it. And when we were talking to Duncan yesterday, he was like, a lot of these teachers and people that we look up to are dying and passing away. And when they go, who's going to be left behind? It's us. We're the ones that are the teachers now, the ones that are here to keep this thing moving forward. And doing this has made me realize that all of us are teachers out there. Not just me, not just Mel Applewriter, like you, the dude standing next to me puking at a festival. All of us are teachers. We're all learning
Well, that's
from
why they
each
call
other.
them seniors, because they've just been through longer life.
Yeah.
And it shows on our fine lines and our gray hair and our, maybe we used to dance at, 50 miles an hour. Now it's only
2.
2 miles an hour.
Yeah. And not just that, but that it's okay. It's okay to take that. And you don't have to be, there's no expectation in that other than it's okay to just be who you are and share your experience. And that's a hard, weird lesson to come to in your, at 47, is that I have something to share, and who I am is beneficial to the people around me.
Yeah, totally. I mean, and music is such a good metaphor for life too, and it's like Melanie was saying before about the different aspects of her personality. It's like, yeah, people were like music, like, we're just going through our day, like, singing and jiving along, whatever we have to do, we kind of mold to different situations and circumstances. It's like all the genres that are out there, all the genres of music, all the genres of personalities that someone can have.
Wow, yeah.
It's an
And
interesting way to say it, Mike. I like it like that. That's a good way to say it.
yeah, thanks. Yeah. And for me, I remember my first big music festival was Coachella. And, I know how people feel about Coachella, whatever. I'd never been to a music festival before. Someone had a ticket. They were like, you want to come? And I was like, yeah. Anyway,
Yeah.
it was awesome. And this was in 2011. And it was
Probably
awesome.
when it was good still.
It was that was the last year, because I went like a couple of years and nothing was like that first experience. But that was the first time that I was like, wow, I'm just allowed to just fully be with people and in a crowd. And like, then as the years went on, like I got the experience of kind of being ushered in from my California friends who had been going for years, and they were like, you got to come to this festival. And I came, and they were like, this is what we're talking about, you know? And so they were sort of the teachers and other people there. And then when I was going, like the last year I went, like 2016, I think, or 2015, I think was the last year I went, you know, I saw that too, like the kid coming in to the festival, and like, you know, just you could tell like it's his first time there. And, you know, like I think you guys mentioned this actually when you were talking to Mike about like being at the festival and kind of realizing like your role, realizing like where you are now.
Yeah.
You're not in the front, you're in the back
Or something.
Yeah, Mike said that. Yeah, I'm now at the back of the stadium. I'm not up on the rail anymore, which is okay.
Right. Has purpose, right?
Well, yeah, and I think.
Truly, it's because I, for real, want space.
Well,
Like,
I was just gonna say, I think a lot of it, and not. I guess this is a great forum to be woo, but like somebody's got to hold the space,
Right.
in those situations, because it's such a. If you think of what a concert itself is physically, it's very chaotic. There's a lot of people on psychedelics. There's loud frequency happening, a lot of movement, like just physically it's chaotic, right? And there's got to be people there that are holding space for the other people and create and watching out and making sure that everybody's okay, and just holding the space so that there's an environment.
The archbishops of the musical church.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah,
I guess
like when the whole
whatever.
ocean is in chaos, maybe this is like the little ripple side, you know, the kiddie pool.
And to me, it's an amazing thing to be in the back. Now, I love being in the back because I'm not like most of it. They Aaron and Melanie, they really like to dance a lot more. They get a lot more into dance than I do. I'm a more visual person. I like to have my eyes open and watch the crowd and the band and see the connection between the band, and to be at the back and look over that chaotic ocean in front of you it's an amazing scene. To me, I feel it more when I can see everybody and the whole like community laid out in front of me. It's amazing to watch.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like staring at the ocean, right? It's like,
Yeah.
look at those waves, man. That's cool.
And then you do that caregiver, you keep an eye out. We all do that now at all the shows. We always have plenty of water and go up to
Yeah.
people like, here, you know, hydrate.
I've had
Oh, it's
awesome
amazing.
Earth Mamas come and protect me during shows, and didn't even know I needed it, didn't even know it was happening, but felt okay to be sitting on the ground or puking or whatever. And just like, there's really not too many other outlets that would be okay in. You know, like somebody's not feeling well or needs to just be away from a crowd, and then there's like these wonderful people that'll just kind of like create a circle around you in order for you to get some air or just collect yourself. That's a really special thing that happens in those concerts, and I'm grateful for that. So I definitely give that back.
Yeah, it's amazing when that happens. When you need a water and you're at a show and someone gives you a water, you're like, oh my god,
Magic,
you're a
bro.
genius.
We were at Dark Star Orchestra a couple weeks ago, and I was really, really high, and it was set break, and like I was a little bit like out of my depth. I was like having trouble finding a space to be comfortable, and like, super thirsty. And the people next to me had these beautiful, like sweating cups of water, and I was just looking at it like, oh my god! But I couldn't ask for some reason, or I didn't want to move and whatever. And I was like, God, I wish somebody would just walk up and hand me a drink of water. And this girl I never met walks up to me with a fucking cup of water and it's like, here, brother, you need some water. I was like, holy shit. You read my mind. Yeah. It was awesome.
She probably did.
Yeah, of course. That's exactly. And that's another whole can of worms to this scene that doesn't get talked about. That
telepathy?
Like,
let's get into it.
That telepathic element is a real thing. Like, I spent a lot of years at dead shows going, is this really happening? Is this real? And then like go home and like try and talk myself out of it No, that didn't happen. It was just in my head. It was just the
You're
drugs.
just high.
You're just high, whatever. And fuck that, man. The whole world is happening inside my head, you know?
Yeah.
And if it happened, then it was real. And so at this point in my life, I'm like, why can't we talk about that we're all having this telepathic communication and not just at shows? Like, it happens in our house. It happens with our dog. I hear my
Oh
dog
my gosh,
talking all
our
the time.
dog Mike straight up has a voice, and that's why on a few shows.
What does he sound like? What does he sound like?
We all have a voice.
Yeah, it depends on his talk.
Wait. First of all, what's the dog's name? And then everyone do your version of the dog voice.
Yeah, what's his name?
Hi Mike, my name is Darwin, and this is Mom's version of my voice. This is the most truest form of it too.
It is.
Mike,
I don't even
want to be on the show. I'm just going to sit in the sun and hang out. You guys are fucking weird.
No, my favorite part is when when I'm drinking and everyone can hear me in the background.
That is my favorite part. I'm just laying here with my face on the concrete, and I wish you guys would just. You don't know my life.
But yeah, it's
So yeah, we
telepathic
do
dog,
that all
dude.
the time.
Yeah. Very individualistic telepathic dog. Yeah.
He channels through
But
all
what
of us.
you don't see is that his face and his little mannerisms match the voices, which is the craziest, cutest thing.
And if you're doing his voice, he'll look at you while you're doing his voice.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I think I heard
So-
someone told me recently like dogs are very like connected to the sort of spiritual psychic realm. Yeah.
Do you have a pet?
I don't,
Apple.
unfortunately.
I was
Yeah.
just like when we come home from shows and or high, he is very attuned to us being high. At first,
Oh,
he's
yeah.
kind of sketched out like, "Oh God, here we go again. What are these fuckers doing?" But he becomes so compassionate. He wants to be right by us and snuggle up and be in your face. And
He'll
He looks
come,
you in the eye.
He'll
too.
come in like, he's 115 pounds, so he's a big dude. And I'll sit down on the couch tripping, and he'll put his front paws on my leg and put his face right on my nose, his nose on my nose, and just stare at me.
Aw.
Dude, are you okay? Everything cool in there? You doing all right?
He's pretty rad doggy.
Yeah, he becomes your like trip sitter. Your
Oh yeah.
He's my spirit animal, but in real life.
and he'll growl. He does that sometimes too. He'll just
Yeah.
be looking off like up in the corner growling, and we're like, okay, he's keeping us safe.
But seriously though, like, why is it not okay to talk about that, Mike? Why is it not okay for us? Why do we feel like we have to keep that to ourselves? That when we go do these things, or even out in the forest taking mushrooms with your crew, like, that's a real thing that's happening. Why?
Yeah.
Why is that?
Yeah, I think it's scary, right? It's like, oh my god, people can read my thoughts, like whatever. But and then you get into the whole like, well, there must be something to it, right? Because I mean, this has to be real, and then like those of us who have experienced it know this to be true. But then you just look at like the facts that like the CIA was experimenting with LSD in the '60s, trying to create, doing like remote viewing stuff and trying to get people try to break into like secret Russian bases so they can extract information.
And pulling it off.
Yeah.
Yeah,
fucking
man.
pulling it off, man. I just posted something on Instagram a few weeks ago. There's like a CIA paper on telepathy and remote viewing, like how to do it and the steps and the whole thing. Like, come on, man. If they're talking about it,
No,
why
man,
can't we?
It's all
Yeah,
fake.
and then everybody
Don't
watches
believe
the Stranger Things. Have you guys seen Stranger
Yeah.
Things?
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody watches that show, Stranger Things, and they're like, "Oh wow, this is crazy science fiction." It's like, yeah, well, like that is
So
kind of like
much
what they were doing.
science.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And we're in such a like really cool, unique moment in history, in that the psychedelic revolution happened in the 60s and kind of went underground for a lot of years. And now we're like at this pinpoint in time where it's out of the closet. And
yeah,
it's okay to talk about, and you're not ostracized as much.
Well,
And there's they call it the third wave or whatever it is, and I think it just adds so much more to it, because we can have a conversation just like we're having right now, and nobody's going to come to my house and arrest me for talking about this.
No, hopefully not. I
hope not.
Would.
It's all alleged.
Yeah,
it's all bullshit
this
anyway.
It's all an act that we put on
Right.
for
Characters,
shows.
we're
This is all
characters.
entertainment.
Yeah, that thing I said about putting myself together earlier, that was for
Yeah, it's
the
all-
camera.
Yeah, it's entertainment purposes only.
Yeah.
I sent you guys a script before the show.
Totally.
Just to be clear.
Thanks for sticking
And
to
you
How
it.
are
stayed
we
on
doing?
script. I'm very
Oh, this is a great table read. Everybody's done very well.
We're professionals.
Yeah.
Yeah, plausible deniability.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I had a funny experience now looking at it in hindsight, where it was one of the first moments where I experienced this telepathy thing, and I was at a music festival, and I was with this girl, and I think it was this band Alt J that was playing. Might have been, I forget, but it was like
Getting shaking heads so people know who you're talking about.
yeah, it was like sunset. The sun was setting, and the mountains were in the background. And I was like thinking like, oh, I think she wants me to like kiss her right now. And I was like, wait, am I reading her mind? And then I'm like, wait, I can't do that. Like, this will just be crazy if I just grab her and start kissing her. Like, we just started hanging out. Like, is this possible? And so I didn't do it because I didn't want to like, I was like, oh no, like I don't want to kind of like, invade her space or something like that. And so I didn't do it, but then afterwards, like we wound up hanging out later on, and we was like, yeah, were you thinking like, yeah, I was like waiting for you to like make a move. I was like, damn it.
Oh,
And
Well,
that
there's
was
always-
the last
there's
time he
always
doubted
now.
himself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's when I knew. I was like, okay, yeah, this is exactly what's going on here, the telepathy thing. And then, that whole feeling of just being at a festival, being at a show, and just everybody is just loving and feeling on the same vibe, and you have that kind of connection going on. And I remember one of my first times, and this is when I became the sort of, the aggressive evangelist, was like, man, like we can just be doing this all the time. Like that was my thought. My thought was like, this could just be life. Like, and Aaron, I know you took that literally for 2 years, right? Like,
Oh, yeah, I did.
Yeah, that's amazing, man.
He's trying to take it literally now.
But you know what, man? I was just going to say, I think the point, if there is a point to all of this, is to show us how to be all the time.
There's never one point. You know that.
Well, one of the points
Yeah.
is
Many
how
points.
how
It's like a porcupine.
how people can live, because it doesn't have to be singular. It doesn't have to be only at a show when I've taken the proper dose of MDMA or LSD.
The thing
and-
is we're
and blah, blah,
taking
blah.
over. We are taking over.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be that way. It doesn't have to be, exclusionary like that, where it can only happen in that space. I can only feel that way when I'm at a show. And no, take that with you. At the last Grateful Dead concert in 2015 at Fare Thee Well, they played the very last song, and the band came out on the stage to take their final bow as a band ever. And Mickey Hart, the drummer, said, the way you guys are feeling right now, take it out into the world and do something with it. And that is fucking profound.
And it
man.
feels like people have.
Yeah. And so I think that's like, for me, what I'm trying to do, and I know that the people that I live with and are on the show with you right now feel the same way. Like, I want that all the time, and I don't want it to just be when I'm high at a show. So I'm going to model my life after the way I felt so that I can feel like that all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, man. I remember like this great like Terrence McKenna video where he's talking about, he's like that it's like reality is being sold to us, like wholesale in this like one, this monopoly version, right? And it's like, and then he says like, that it's this sanctioned playpen of allowable like opinion and thought,
Shit.
and like it's like, all right, you guys just play in here, don't worry about anything going on beyond the walls. And it's like, well, wait a second, man. Like we've been playing this fucked up game of like Monopoly for like decades or whatever, generations, centuries. Maybe we could do something else. Like,
Yeah.
maybe
Yeah.
if we
Make
talk.
up our own shit.
And that's
Exactly.
that's heavy too, man, when you realize that you are responsible for creating your own reality, and
Yeah.
that your thoughts actually do affect change in the world around you, whether it be, manifesting a cup of coffee when you want a cup of coffee, or creating a community through a podcast. There's no limit to it. The limit is your
Well,
imagination.
yeah, just whatever flavor you want to spin on it, like hickory barbecue, Carolina, like
Oh man,
I like
that sounds
applewood
good.
smoke.
right?
sounds
Yeah,
good,
see,
man.
Feel
honey,
Santa Fe Cajun. Yeah.
yeah. So with No Simple Road, you're just getting genuine people who really love each other, and so you guys are feeling the little bit of like rainbow of our love, and also we like to make other people feel welcome, and the weary come to us, and then they are freaking taken care of and
Hook you up.
hooked up.
Yeah, and that's something too
That's our
that's
thing.
happened a lot from this, is that we've had a lot of people physically show up here
Hell yeah, and it's been
and come to the
awesome.
house and stay for a couple of days and just get loved on and fed.
I need it,
and-
you guys. I miss my little daughter in LA, and I come in, we have these sweet little 20-something-year-olds that are kind of like trying to figure out what the hell to do with their life. Because they're seeing all this stuff like we're talking about with the telepathy, knowing that it's true. And then these parents that are stuck in paradigms that are older than dirt and still trying to be current in 2019. You got to switch it up. There are young, sexy grandmas out there. Believe me. There
Well,
things.
you heard it here, folks. Start dating young, sexy
grandmas,
grandmas.
yeah.
Hey, man, I'm just saying, like,
That's
times,
the key to bliss.
times are changing.
Yeah. And it doesn't have to be what you were told and sold. And like you said, we've been playing in this fucking weird monopoly corporate sandbox for so long. Let's try something different, man. You know what? I'm gonna move in with my best friend and my wife and my nephew and my found family. When they come around, I'm gonna treat them like they live here and like I would want to be treated. And let's take that feeling that we have when we're at shows and like spread it around a little bit and see what happens. Because I'm finding out that's magic.
Yeah, definitely. How do you guys like? I think what you totally like, Melanie, what you said, like that comes through. Like you guys are just hanging out and you're sharing the love, and like you feel that, like genuine, real people. Like that's what you feel from No Simple Road, and I'm feeling that right now from just hanging out with you guys and chatting.
I hope so. I'm glad you
Yeah.
do.
We are too, man.
Yeah.
gotcha.
I want to add something because this is a big thing too.
Uh-oh.
This was a really big thing for me when we went to it. This is about the Radiohead
Oh.
experience. I don't know
Yeah.
if
I'll
you ever
just
been
sit
to a
back.
Radiohead show, Mike.
Yeah.
Okay, Radiohead for me. I've loved them my whole life, but we went. Was it 2 years ago now? Almost.
Yeah,
We went to me and Aaron and Melanie went to a Radiohead show up here
at the
and
Moda Center.
It just blew my. And we experienced everything. Like at the end of it, I said Tom York and the guys. It's like they just made love to the entire arena. And we experienced like life and death and everything at that one. That one really woke me up when we came up here because Tom York is a shaman. Once they get going, there is no genre for them. There is no box. There is, they are Radiohead. And Aaron saved a guy's life there. There's a guy that was like ODing on something. Aaron physically with another guy like carried him out of the arena and then came back and was standing next to us a few moments later. And I got the point of this, just anybody that listens to this, if you've never experienced a Radiohead show, what was the next day there was a review that somebody had put in a paper up here.
That review
And he
was
said you could
amazing.
spend your whole life, going to the top of mountains, meditating, doing yoga, whatever, to get there, or you could just simply go to a Radiohead show.
Nice.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. That thing I think was the beginning of what we were talking about, or part of the beginning of what I was talking about earlier about losing that badge and figuring out that the cat really is out of the bag, and that psychedelic space has spread through culture and is creating its own culture of a sort, and the non-culture, and it's turning around at that show and seeing a dude in a suit and a kid with a mohawk and a hippie and a girl with a bone in her nose and a dude with purple hair and everybody.
There was a
and that
monk. There was a monk.
was
Yeah,
there.
and a
Oh, wow.
Buddhist
We
monk.
saw a monk. We all had to ask each other, "Do you
He's
see
taking
this
notes,
monk?"
the monk.
Yeah,
He was jamming.
He was fucking dancing and having a
grooving
great
to
time. And to see
Radiohead.
all those people smiling and holding hands and into the same thing and vibing on the same frequency really says something about humanity and the capacity that we have to interconnect and come together as a species on a psychic level.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's definitely something off about somebody who like doesn't like music. You know, like I don't know if a person like that exists, but if they do, I don't want to know them, and I think we should all be afraid of that person. What do you
He's an
got?
android.
Yeah, they must be like an android. Like it's so powerful, and like, you know, what do you think it is about, like, you know, because Apple mentioned Tom York is like a shaman, you know, and it's like, yeah, like I've gotten that feeling before too. It's like that you're at like this new sort of non-secular modern day version of church. You know, you got instead of the stained glass, you got the lights going or whatever, you know, instead of the preachers, you got the musicians, you know, like we it's very like relatable to this feeling. Do you think that that's what it is?
No, it reminds me of bhakti yoga, which is worship. And if you go to a Christian church, you know, that's a big part. If you go to a Catholic church, that's a big part. If you go to a Baptist church, that's a big part. The singing, the clapping of the hands, the hymns,
Congregate.
it's the people coming together with their voices, lifting them up to bring down the spirit. And that is what's happening at concerts on some scale, whatever version that you want to choose. And it's a form of bringing whatever divine out there, whatever you want to call it, like into yourself and like becoming one with
Connecting.
it. It's that making love that Apple was talking about, or touching that, or samadhi, or whatever kind of language you want to put. It's a pinnacle experience through worship together.
And on some level, human beings have something built into them where we need ritual, whether it's cooking our food or sitting around a television
Discipline.
set or lighting a fire and dancing around it or banging a drum. We as human beings crave ritual. And it's something that modern culture is devoid of as far as anything sacred. It's been removed systematically from our culture and from where we're at as human beings. And I think that as silly as it sounds, the music festival scene, the jam scene, is the resurgence of that through the eyes and lens of the system that we're in and the world that we've been brought up in. It's our way of connecting back to that divine thing when frequency changes the actual like spin of the molecules in your body and sound begins to move through you and in you. We need that as human beings, and also the community of it coming together in the mind, not just in body, but in mind as one unit. It's something that we've needed for a really long time. If you look at indigenous people, every indigenous culture has some form of ritual. And so it just has to happen in modern culture that we have something come out of it. And so you add psychedelics and you add sound, you're going to get ritual one way or another. It's going to happen. So to me, that's what this is when we go to a show, it's not just, like you said, church, or it's not just going and getting high at a show and whatever, man. It was fucking awesome. It's my way of connecting back to the divine and feeding it back out into the world so that thing can affect change out there through me and with me.
Oh, amazing. Sounds like a prayer. Through me and with me.
Amen.
Amen, brother.
And I just was going to add, the music can provide that too, like we've said too. We love doing our sacrament and stuff, but you don't need that. Music can provide that just quick thing, like with my dad was a big influence on me with music and everything, and he let that get out of his life. My dad for years, probably 20 years, hardly listened to music anymore, and he's the one that got me into jazz, all kinds of stuff, and it kind of hurt me to see that. I worked for him, and I'd be playing my music in my office, and he'd be like, turn that off. How can you work with music on?
There's the guy that doesn't like music.
Yeah, but then now that just came back in November. I went to go see Fleetwood Mac with him in Vegas, which was the first concert I ever saw in my life that he took me to in 1976. So, and it brought it back. And now every time I call him or talk to him, and my stepmother has said too, he's a happier person. He started playing music again all the time. When he's in his office working, he has jazz on or Fleetwood Mac, and it's made him a happier, better, grounded person again just through listening to music.
You know what, Mike? Apple just made me think of something too. In my life, so 89 was my first Grateful Dead show. So Jerry passed away in 95. From 95 to the end of 97, I was strung out on heroin. And I wasn't listening to music. So the only time in my life that everything fell apart is when I went away from the sound.
I was strung out on meth listening to 9 Inch Nails at that time.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I was raising kids.
It was the only time in our lives me and Aaron didn't hang out because we liked different drugs.
Yep.
And that's sad.
That is sad.
Yeah. I've been there too, not with those drugs, but you know, I was living in New York and I was in just kind of doing a lot of cocaine and like, you know, just out drinking alcohol like crazy, you know, stuff like that. And yeah, man, that shit, you know, it can fuck you up. And what was it that I mean, maybe I can guess, but what had brought you guys back? You know, what got you back into the world, into the world of living?
Well, that we'd have to go to Aaron and Melanie to start that because Melanie kind of came into Aaron's life, and I was gone to California. I went into self-imposed rehab in 96, I think it was, 97. I moved up to where my mom lives up by the Sierras, like in the middle of nowhere, just to
dry out.
Be away from everything. And then,
we met and got married in 97, in November of 97. And when I met Aaron, there was no Grateful Dead smell on him anywhere. I mean, he looked raunchy as heck, but
I was homeless.
Yeah, but you had a certain kind of stank, baby.
He looked like he was from Seattle.
Actually, he did actually, and I don't know. I was kind of screwed up myself. I like the junky white kind of strung out type looking, and I guess that's what I got.
That was that was kind of popular though, because I remember being a little kid. Like I had an older cousin. My first introduction to music was Nirvana, Smashing Pumpkins, like that stuff. And
that was beautiful music. I mean, come on, when Smashing Pumpkins came out with Tonight. That was like, it was the most beautiful song I'd ever heard.
You know,
and that's around the time that Aaron and
today.
The music was. That's what the music Aaron and I were listening to when we were together.
Yeah,
was that?
I think it's funny, man. We're talking about worship and ritual. What really brought me back to music when Mel and I got together, she was a born again Christian and going to this church. And, I'm this homeless junkie in Vegas and meet this girl, and she takes me to this church, and they're playing like grunge worship songs at this church. And within like 4 months,
Generation X.
Gen X. And I'm like leading worship at this church, like playing guitar and singing for these people. And that's what brought me back to the music. And then I started listening to the Dead again and Tool and stuff after that. But that's what got me back on my feet, was like seeing that music was touching people and that I needed it in my life again, because I had gone so far off the rails, and I guess I needed that, like, I hate to put it in this terms, but like the baby steps of that Christian mindset to just show me that music was the thing.
It was just people. Like, church brings together people, all kinds of people from all walks of life, all different kind of behaviors. And if you get a group of people anywhere, there's going to be sweethearts in every group. And there might be the other kind of people in that group too, but we're not focusing on that. And what the church did for me was bring me to a place where I had people my age. I had a positive place instead of some negative place to go to, and I loved grunge music.
Such
and
a
they were. It
slippery
was just
slope,
kind
though.
of like updated, right? It was like they were trying to be cool and play to that young 20-something,
Let's get him in the door.
Yeah,
Get their
yeah.
money.
Well, and they did a nice job, and so I was doing that. And plus, I was a child raising a child. I was a 16-year-old mom, so I was super young, and it gave me some structure that helped me to be start to be a good parent.
And then I showed up and blew that shit apart.
Yeah, yeah, he did.
Boom.
Cause some chaos.
Yep.
He did.
Yeah, man.
I allowed it.
But
now we're here.
now we're here. Yeah,
This
that.
is what the
and
chaos
I'm grateful
did.
to that thing for
the chaos spit up No Simple Road.
Yeah.
Melanie saved
Yeah.
my brother too. As I always tell her that. She's like, "Come on!" It's like she's a guardian angel that came along when me and him were not in each other's lives and at our worst. And Melanie came out of that.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
really, if I'm being honest with myself, in looking
If I'm
back,
being honest.
in looking back on it, like when I wasn't in the music is when everything kind of fell apart. And
Well,
I don't know
How did
why.
that happen? Like, what happened for you that led you down that road?
So
Starting getting into heroin and stuff.
Yeah, so I was on tour, and at the end of that whole scene, like right before Jerry passed away, the Grateful Dead scene had taken a turn. Things were dark. You could feel it in the lot. You could feel it at the shows. Like the magic was still there. It was still happening, but it was tinged with this darkness. And there was a lot of dope in the lot and more junkies. And that wasn't a thing when I first started going. Like it just started showing up. And then when Jerry passed, it was like, imagine if, I don't know, your small town in America, one day there's no roads or streets in it anymore, and the houses are all gone, and nobody has a job. That's what it was like. This entire city that had traveled with the band now in a day has nowhere to go and no job. And I didn't know what to do, man. It was my life. Like, I lived in a school bus. I followed a rock band around. I did tattoos in a parking lot. Like, that was what I did. And now all of a sudden it's been removed. And so I ended up back in Vegas floating.
And that doesn't carry a resume well.
No, and not to mention the pain of it too, because everything that I had hung my hopes and dreams on now had disappeared. So I was heartbroken and hurt because this thing was gone that I loved on such a deep level. And so for me, like a lot of people, when they talk about being a heroin addict, they say that it's like this insidious thing. They didn't realize it was happening as it was happening, and not really sure why they did it and blah, blah, blah. But for me, it was very conscious, anesthetizing myself to the heartbreak that I felt because I felt lost. And so I didn't want to feel that. And so when I did dope, I became numb. And when I remember having these like moments of coming down and being like, oh my God, if I don't get more, I'm going to start feeling again. And all this is going to come back. Like I need to hurry up and get high again. And so that's how I ended up like strung out sleeping under a stairwell is hiding from heartbreak.
Oh man.
Yeah.
I'm glad you made it back and made it
Thanks,
out of there.
man.
Yeah,
Me
that's
too.
so you can you can do this thing that you're doing now, which I think is going to help. Helps a lot of people, and it's amazing. And just like as you guys are all talking and telling these stories and thinking about Apple talking about his dad and turn that racket down, and then kind of having a transformation, and then both of you guys going through this. It's like. And then even what we were talking about before about just kind of like this mainstream system that we're supposed to plug into. It's like there's like a level of like loneliness and detachment and disconnection and stuff when you're not when you're not like kind of doing the thing that you really want to do that kind of like sings to your heart. And unfortunately, I think we live in a world where that's like kind of what they want to do is just make everyone kind of numb, detached, not feeling. And then you have people turn to, heroin and meth and cocaine and stuff like, and those sorts of things. But no, they don't, they want to keep like cannabis federally Schedule 1, all these other things that could help you, psilocybin, mushrooms, MDMA. No, we got to, test them and research, but alcohol, go ahead, buy those. Oh, you're not feeling happy.
Go ahead
like
and poison yourself. It's cool.
Here's a
It's like all
prescription.
It's all about control. Like you're easier to control if you're dumb and not woke
Yeah,
or
if
whatever.
you're numb and dumb. Yeah.
Yeah, numb and dumb. You're easy to control. Consume. Check out this commercial.
Yeah, you need this. Yep. And I read something. I think it was a meme on Instagram, and I'm gonna butcher the shit out of it. This is not going to be verbatim, but it said like the things in a person's life that hurt them the worst turn out to be the gifts they give back to the world. And it really struck me. And this was just a few days ago, actually. Like, I thought, holy shit, all that stuff that I went through, all that heartbreak, all the pain, all the shit, disconnectedness, and all that is the very thing that I can help alleviate because I've been through it. And now I know how to not make that happen.
It's your special purpose.
Yeah.
I found my special purpose.
You found your happy place.
Yeah.
I'm kind of wondering. I wonder if that was something that I posted to Instagram because I posted this quote by this author Robert Bly where he said, "Where a man's wound is, that's where his genius will be. Wherever the wound appears in our psyches, whether it's from alcoholic fathers, shaming mothers, abusive mothers, whether it's from isolation, disability, or disease, that is precisely the place for which we will give our major gift to the community."
Yep.
Okay,
You
that was
nailed
awesome.
it.
Aaron did slaughter it.
I told you I was
going to
butcher it, man.
No, but
Well,
you
that's what Aaron got
communicated
out
the
of
message of it. Yeah, no, that's perfect. Yeah, make it your own thing. Make it apply to you. Which leads me to like what I'm thinking about next is like, we're talking about all this stuff, and it's just like, we know going to these shows and the church and the transformation, all it's like amazing stuff, and then we're, there's also this fucking stupid toxic world that we have to navigate through. It's like, you're on a boat with your friends and you're having a good time and you're like paddling through this like sewage water. How do you guys do that? Like, how does that work for you? Like, how do you kind of navigate sort of the fucking crazy shit that we sort of live in sometimes?
Don't let everybody answer on their own.
I was going to say, and I'm very well. I wouldn't even say guilty of this because it's like, I've learned since we moved up here. One thing I don't do anymore: I don't watch the news. I don't listen to the shit. I don't need to be part of that world. That I used to be so hooked to my TV in Vegas. It was hard for them to get me to go out and do things a lot. I was just in a box. I was up here. I just realized all that doesn't affect my day-to-day life. And that stuff can bring you down so much to get wrapped up in what's going in the world. I mean, you can't totally disconnect. I still hear about things, but like the news is bullshit. What they're trying to feed us is bullshit. It's just that for me, that's how I, just blocking things out of my life. And my dad gets mad because I'm not involved in politics anymore. I don't care that much. And it's like, well, what was it yesterday when we were talking to Duncan, that thing? Tend the part of the garden that you can reach.
Yeah.
Is what I've become more about, instead of like, we got to, if I got to do this to affect the whole world and make change. It's like, well, you can change what's directly in front of you. That's what you have the power to do. Be here now type thing for, So Mel?
Well, I'm like Apple in that fact where I don't listen to the news or anything like that. And I just choose to live a simpler life in thought. I like to have simple thoughts. I don't need to have this complexity because I did that for a really long time. My airheaded ways, and I don't mean like I just like I get lost in my thoughts.
Where's my keys?
Yeah, like I have this whole entire fun reality that's going on up there, and then I'm like, oh shit, I'm driving. I need to be that's my exit. Like I like almost like drop in on my life, and I don't know if that's from psychedelics. I don't know if that's Melanie. I don't know what that is, but I realized that what I get mad about is when I go to a concert and then they turn on the lights and all the cups are on the floor. That's what I'm passionate about. And so
She's not bullshitting.
what
She'll
do
be
I
there
do?
picking 'em up.
Security has to make her stop picking stuff up.
Security
and,
will
you gotta
stop
leave.
me from picking up cups from the floor because I need to, leave the premises. And, that bothers me. Why is it all these people full of love 1 minute and then the next minute they're throwing their shit on the ground? And so my little personal mission is to pick up as many cups as I can on my path to where I'm going.
So I think that's a metaphor for the bigger thing.
So
Wow.
if one of those news stories happens to come to me in a personal way, then that's how I will deal with it. But I'm not going to also contribute the anxiety kind of worried kind of scared energy. I'm about healing and love and fun. So that's the vibe I
Those are
like to
fun
jump
things.
on.
Those are good stuff. Ryder?
Yeah.
I would have to say, mine. I'm a lot similar. I do pay attention to the news, but not like TV news. I get my news from like YouTube and stuff like that. But for the
And
most
last
part,
week tonight with John Oliver, we both like that one.
that's more comedy than news. But mostly I just I don't do social media very much. If I'm on stuff like that, it's usually to look at like videos of dogs and cats being adorable. That's pretty much what I
So
do.
many good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Be careful. You go down a wormhole.
Oh
of
yeah,
this cat
it's
video.
constantly.
Fluffy
That's
pets.
It's all I do. So yeah, I guess I more stay out of it than anything else. I think we all do a very similar thing and just kind of work with what you got in front of you, like what you can put your hands on.
Yeah.
Disconnect from that stuff we were taught to be connected to all our lives.
And
like,
you know-
you need to be connected to this. No, we don't.
Right.
For me, I've never been one of those people that's hooked on the news.
You're very informed,
But-
babe.
but
You're
I
always
was just-
telling
let
me.
me
You're the
finish.
guy.
I know what's going on, but I realized a while back that what's happening out there, whether it's some great cabal in a room somewhere having it all planned out or not, or it's just the way shit is, they want us to be afraid. They want our anxiety and they want our fear. So, your question was how do you navigate that sewage? And I just don't live in that world anymore, man. I just choose not to be a part of that in my thoughts and my daily life. Yeah, I'm in the world and I have to go to the grocery store and drive my car and put gas in it and all that shit. But I don't have to take part in the game. I can take part in my game. I'm in charge of what's in my head and what I
And
think
what you put in it.
and what I
Yeah,
put in
what
it
you
and what
allow
comes
in.
out of it. And so for me, I take care of my family. I love the people that are around me, and I work at creating an atmosphere where we're free to be who we need to be so that the world around us can change because of that.
And it has.
And
It really has.
and
Fuck those guys.
well, but also we all navigate a sewagey kind of, me and Aaron more than
Apple and Mel.
Apple and Mel, like a daily life. We work for a corporation.
Ugh.
And I when it comes to that, it's more for me at least a go with it kind of thing. I
Roll with the punches.
roll with the punches.
And for me, it's a means to an end.
Yeah. And for me, I work. I have my dream fucking job. That's another thing that happened to me. I know. I did.
Whatever,
Well, it's
man.
part of me, and you
I
guys.
do too, actually.
So
Yeah,
Melanie's worked
yeah.
in and out of the cannabis industry alongside me at two places we worked at. But my job now, I'm flower inventory manager for a dispensary. So what I do is
you're a weed dealer.
dispensary.
Stop.
I meet with gardens every day for them to bring me samples,
One
and
of
then I
the
have to
biggest
come home.
dispensaries
I
in Oregon.
have to come home and smoke those every night, so I know whether it's good and we want to buy
Testing.
it. So
Yeah.
I'm going to be 50 in May, and I never thought in my life that I would have a job like this, and it has made me such just a grounded, happy person
Yeah.
that helps me
It really
block
has.
that stuff. I spent a lot of my life, like most people, I used to love to argue politics and religion and stuff just for the sake of arguing. Now it's I don't got time for that.
I'm living that
My
shit,
time
man.
is about being happy and passing on to, like Aaron, like we were talking about, like being a teacher. Just I work with a lot of young people, and I realize like they look up to me, but now I realize I look up to them too because we're constantly teaching each other. And cannabis industry is just amazing what's happening across this country.
You're a lucky dude.
Yeah, I have a couple cousins that live out in Portland. I wonder if they work at the same dispensary.
Oh,
Oh
really?
shit!
Yeah,
Is it
They're a
Define
sponsor
Premium
of our
Cannabis?
show, so
Yeah,
you could say the
Define.
name.
I don't know. I'll have to ask them. Yeah.
Yeah, I just think that the overall answer to that is we've created our own reality. And if the outside things happen to cross into our reality, then we think about them and talk about them intelligently. Like, what was that? The Berenstain Bears? The Mandela effect.
Oh yeah.
I don't know why that, as a family, we just had the funniest.
Because it shook all of
yeah,
us.
it freaked us all out as a
Yeah.
family.
Yeah.
I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, but we just,
We
you know,
focus more on the ship than
yeah,
the sewage.
yeah,
Yeah, right on, Ryder.
That's
Ryder
a
said we
great-
focus more on
Yeah,
the ship
yeah.
than the sewage.
I
That's
like
cool.
That was profound.
No, that's great, man.
have-
I loved everything that you guys said. I think that's just right on the money because it's like at the end of the day, you have like, and I know a lot of you guys brought up the news and stuff, and like, man, I used to do this other podcast where I was talking about the news all the time and shit, and I just decided to just eject from that and start Mycadelic, and I still kind of talk about some stuff, but I'm not so heavily attached. I don't have a TV. I don't watch the news. That's like probably the worst thing that you could do because they want you to hop into that frequency. You know, it's like that fear paradigm is like, that's what they're selling. And if you give them the eyeballs, if you give them the attention, like they're going to do it because they can't do it without the attention. They can't do it without the clicks, without the eyeballs, without, people hooking into that frequency. They need like participation from people like that. So I always say too, and I'm glad all you guys said the same thing because this is how I think it is too. It's like, just create your own shit, detach from that, like, just don't participate in that frequency that's being put out. Hop on another one. There's so many out there.
I want to say one thing that's very important. I feel you're saying the same thing too for listeners out there. By no means am I saying we can't make a difference by like I'm not saying don't go vote and don't be involved in your world.
Yeah,
that's very
true.
important. We can create
Yeah.
change, and that does matter. But
Just
you
don't drown in it.
need to be caught up in it every day to where you're losing friends over arguing over Trump or
Well,
things like
yeah.
that. Is what
on another
yeah.
level too, and it's something that's not talked about a lot, is like I said, there's a dossier from the CIA about remote viewing, telepathy, and mind control. So if they've written a fucking dossier and can give you instructions on how to do it, they know what the fuck they're doing, man. So
Yeah.
so letting them dictate to you what your reality is or what thoughts are going to be in your head, you're really playing a dangerous game with people that are good at spinning and creating reality. Look at the
and
world
what they
that
try
we're
to
in.
use it for.
So,
I always
like,
tell
and I-
watch
well,
that movie Men Who Stare at Goats or
But
read
look
the book.
at them.
Yeah.
Look at it's a set. It's a movie set.
It's a facade.
They have hair and makeup, and they wear clothes that they wouldn't normally wear in their regular lives, and they're coming to you from.
Like,
And they
the news.
talk like this today in news. Donald
Yeah.
Trump tweets that
That's-
everybody's gay.
And that's right, and that's gonna be like what is gonna bother me at 3:00 in the afternoon. Like, no, thank you. I have better things to do with my
Shit to
3:00 time. Yeah,
Nobody
I gotta
got
go
time
take
for that.
Darwin for a walk. I want to listen to the birds chirp. I mean, I want to get back to simpler stuff.
And not for nothing, like I totally admire people that want to change the world and devote their life to making a difference on a larger level. But it does come down to not letting it ruin your life. Like, if you want to make a difference, have a good time making a difference.
Yeah.
I just keep thinking, as we're talking about this, the lyrics to "I'm just sitting here watching the wheels go round and round." are in my
John
head.
Lennon. Yeah.
I just had to let it go.
But-
I just
well-
had to let it go.
Yeah, he's like, I love to watch them go. Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Bye.
yeah,
Yeah.
man.
Talked about this on Duncan yesterday a little bit too, about Leela, the game, and it's very poetic to think that we have all these choices, all these people, all these smells, all these experiences, all these locations. It's a puzzle that can never be done twice the same. And what we're doing, our mold, is our mold. And we want everybody to find up and hook up your own mold. And if our molds cross, right on. We're always going to be welcoming and loving and help you on to your next thing. And if we can be like that, then the people that we touch and reach, they'll be like that. And then the people that they know, they'll be like that. And that's how you spread and make a difference in the world. So I do think that we're making a difference in the world. It's just not how everybody else does. It's how we do.
Right. Yeah. Right on. Yeah. That's exactly right. Yeah. I'm thinking like right now, I can imagine some, like just, and myself too. It's like, what have you guys like, I mean, you already shared a lot of great wisdom for sure. And I was just wondering if there was any more to it than like, walking this path, figuring these things out. Like, how can people kind of like, listening to this, like, man, I want to make a change. Like, I want to live in a house with my friends and like do something cool. Like, what are some things that you learned along the way and that you're still learning now and that like maybe you could share with some people to like see if, that maybe that help them on their way?
Well, like practically, you have to be honest about the connection with the people you're wanting to do anything with. Like, we're all in a relationship up here. And we also have mutual respect for each other. So you have to really be honest. Like, do I really want to be with these people? And if the answer is yes, there are so many ways to orchestrate that,
And I think for me, if hearing you ask that, the first thing that comes to mind is do it.
Yes.
Don't just fucking talk about it, man. Like,
we're in Portland.
When you do it, then you'll start seeing the fruit of it. It's when you're sitting around talking about it, it's fun, but there has to come a time where the rubber meets the fucking road. I hate that saying, but there has to come a time where it's like, you know what? I'm done talking. It's time for action. And I think the path kind of reveals itself as you get on it. You just decide to put your foot on it, and I'm going to walk. And then you start taking steps one after another, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, there's a tree over there. Oh, there's a flower. I'm going to pick that up. Look at that thing over there. And it kind of shows you itself as you're doing it. It's just making the decision and sticking to it.
Yeah, and that's why I was going to say, like, just do it is what we had
that's
to do.
Awful. I've heard that.
I know, right? But I mean, that's the thing. And the thing to me too, which we had to not do. You can't look too far ahead.
No,
you just have to take what comes in front of you.
True.
We had to just dive into this. We didn't know what the fuck was going to happen. And what's the worst thing, people, that's going to happen if you try something and don't succeed? You can go right back to sitting around and planning the next thing.
Yeah.
You can go right back to where you were. You can move back to that place or whatever, but you're never going to know unless you go ahead and try it. It's scary. It's scary. You got to sacrifice a little. We all had to sacrifice and move away from family and friends that we've had our whole lives. That was hard to do, but we just did it, and now it's organic.
Yeah,
we're figuring it out day by day.
And the last thing I'll say about it is, for me, if you're letting fear be your decision maker, or your thing that's stopping you from doing something, you're making the wrong decision. Fear is never going to lead you where you need to be.
Well,
so it's not. There's a difference between being trepidatious about something and being fearful.
It may not lead you, but it'll
being
push
afraid.
You.
I don't know. Fear.
Yeah, being a little nervous about something.
Fear got me here for sure. I was afraid of staying in Vegas. Fear got me here.
Okay, he's got a point too, because we were afraid of staying in Vegas. Me and Aaron were totally stagnant.
It's kind of a good point, because like, and even when we were talking about like the news and crap like that, it's like you kind of have to maybe be aware a little bit, so you could be like, okay, cool, like this is something that I know that I don't want, or this is something that I know that's going on that I don't want to participate in. So you're like, all right, I know what I don't want. Now it's like, what do I want?
Yeah. But so you're not making the decision like, I'm afraid to do that, so I'm not going to do it. That's what I'm talking
exactly.
about.
Yeah.
Don't
There-
let fear
Yeah.
stop you.
Yeah.
There's a certain amount of luck too, I think, that is being left out, and that's like luck, magic, or whatever. That we're all very fortunate to have each other. We get along so well, and when we don't get along, we get along without getting along.
Well,
There's
that's-
somehow or another
That's the
we-
last part of it, like perseverance. Like, you're not gonna get along with everyone all the
Yeah.
time. You gotta, but you just do it anyways. You're gonna get along again eventually.
we're
and
all
it-
fortunate to
shit
have each other, and I
happens.
think that's our underlying thing.
And that goes for everybody out there.
Yeah.
We are and not just Mel's not just talking about us here on the porch or you, Mike. All of us, we're fortunate to have each other.
And
Yeah.
if things aren't going the way you thought they were gonna go, like that's how shit like things are never gonna go the way you thought they were gonna go. You just gotta keep sticking it out and doing it.
Mm-hmm.
It's never gonna be exactly the way you thought it was. So keep at it.
Yeah.
This is a great time right here. Just talking, it helps. This has all become, I imagine for you too, it becomes essential to everyday life, your podcast, because you are always thinking about it. It's therapeutic when we go. Doesn't happen often, but sometimes we'll have a weekend that we actually set up to have a break with no interviews, and we fucking all miss it. It's like, oh, it's really nice, relaxing, and then we find ourselves like, God, I had something to say today.
2 weeks max.
That's
That's the most you got.
yeah, it's
2 weeks
become
max.
essential to what we are.
Yeah, it's so funny. I get into like if I'm talking with people or something, I'm like, oh shit, like that'd be good for the podcast, and like I have to like write. Kind of, it's like this weird thing where it's like it's good, but it pulls me out of the moment, but like it's also like I got to write this down, otherwise I'm going to forget it, and it's going to be good for the show.
Oh,
It'll
yeah.
be good for other people. Yeah.
I
Yeah,
found-
that definitely happens.
Yeah. I just off that, I started doing something because I forget everything all the time. Whenever that happens, I connect a thought to like a song. I'll find a song and listen to it real quick. So the next time I listen to that song, it'll bounce back into my head, so I don't have to take time to like write it down.
Oh, it's amazing. That's a great way to stuff.
Yeah, you remember it through song association.
I have a terrible memory, and I've been having to figure out like new ways to actually remember things in general. So that's been the newest addition to.
Yeah, I've been like sometimes if I'm like, oh shit, I'm gonna forget this, I need to remember it. I yell at Siri. I'm like, Siri, it's like the personal assistant. I'm like, take this down for me, and then she like doesn't get it right, and I'm like, ah, damn.
Forget that that's an option.
We even have that other listening device in our house.
Yeah.
I hate
Alexa?
that.
Yeah.
I hate it.
I hate it too. I'm
It's
against
my
it all
least
the
favorite
way.
thing. It never works right. Everyone's just yelling at the fucking kitchen. It's
That's
awful.
It's awesome when everybody's yelling at nothing.
Terrible.
It's fucking great.
It's always listening to us. No.
It's just gonna get worse because right now we have the Alexa thing, but pretty soon everything will have that. So you'll just be yelling at everything in your house.
Yeah, yeah, and I wonder too, like how far all that's really gonna go, man. I don't know
As
what
far
I
as
was
we'll let it.
watching, or
Yeah, there you go. As far as we'll let it. I
Yeah.
would say that, right?
they had like, oh, it was that stupid fire festival document.
yeah.
Oh my god. So when they went to the festival, there was no cash, and they had these bracelets that had an RFID on them and a barcode, and you had to load the wristband with money before you went to the festival. And I thought to myself, how long before that's the thing? Like that's just like implanted in your hand.
Yeah.
People
They already
pay
do
with
that.
their watch all the time.
Okay,
That's
so
all-
we're there. Never
It's
mind.
already.
I mean,
a thing.
it is kind of just a debit card.
That's
Just on your
crazy.
wrist. And there are
No, yeah,
already
totally.
have like chips that you can put in.
In your hand.
Yeah. They
Ugh.
We're
do
already
that.
in the future, you guys. It's already here.
Yeah, and it'll go as far as we'll let it go.
So that's why you just focus right now, because you're in the present and in the future and in the past all at the same time. If you think about it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that like there's going to be some people like myself, maybe you guys that like don't want to get, microchip implants or like, VR, brain augmentation or stuff like that. But I think a lot of people are going to really want that. People are going to be psyched. They're going to be like, what? I could just,
Our own son is all into it.
I'd
He's
like-
like, that sounds rad.
I'd like to think that I wouldn't get a VR brain implant, but I also would kind of fucking love it.
See, I
Wow.
think that there's definitely a lot of people that love it. you know, I don't know. I like simple things. I like to touch. I like to hug. I like long walks on a beach.
Technology is
You like
all
pina
bad.
coladas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Technology's not the demon that we all make it out to be. I don't think it's just like money. It's a tool. And
Right.
technology connected us. Technology
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
at its base
everything,
is how
good and
we do
evil.
No Simple Road. So I'm grateful to that shit for being out there. It's all in how we use it and what we decide to do with it.
There's a
Right.
dark
Yeah.
side
It's
to
the level of consciousness and the intention, but like acting with it. Yeah.
There's a dark side and a light side to everything. Same with that technology. It's
Or a touch of gray.
You can go bad with it, or it can be great.
Yeah.
We are in control of that technology too, which is a lot of time. We've talked about that many times. It's not controlling us. We have control of it. You just got to take it.
Yeah,
Well,
you
can
can
definitely
unplug it.
let it give you control. There's a majority of the population that lets.
Let it control you.
Yeah.
Like right now, I'm hooked on Peggle. So
Oh well, I'll sell
that's
my
a time
soul.
Wait,
waster,
hooked on
but
what?
it's so this game Peggle.
I'll sell my soul to that soul.
It can burn
Wait,
up a
yeah.
lot of time.
This
Then
is a
you
good-
realize,
This is a good segment. What's everybody currently hooked on right now? Technology is hooking you.
I'm stuck on Instagram
Instagram
because of the
definitely.
show.
Mm-mm.
Right.
I guess
Yeah, me
if
too.
anything, I'm stuck on Marco Polo and FaceTiming my little grandson. That's my jam right there.
Yeah, mine's YouTube and Peggle. YouTube and Peggle.
You know, I'm going to be saying Peggle soon too, because after the show,
So-
I'm going to apologize
What's
to
this,
you
what are
now.
they talking
Yeah.
about?
Yeah,
It's-
don't let them. You only get a certain amount of lives. Don't let them actually hook you into ping for lives. Just use it as,
Yeah,
use
you
it as a
fun.
cue to
Yeah.
stop playing.
They got me hooked on it. They were playing it like it's been like 2 weeks ago now. They're all out here playing it. I was like, I'm not one to game much, and I'm like, that looks stupid.
He's
And
on
then
his
I'm
phone
sitting there
playing
watching
board
it.
games
Next thing I know,
24/7.
I downloaded it. And now I'm a couple weeks into it.
I'm on level 482.
I'm only on level 60. No, 73.
Whatever.
It's hard. It's a hard fucking game, man.
Anyway, check it out.
Yeah, no, I'm totally gonna check it out.
Hashtag non-spawn.
Yeah.
No, hopefully Peggle sends us a bunch of
Right?
credits. No,
Just give me free lives.
but there's something cool about that. Like, it's like, okay, fine. Like, as long as it doesn't like rule your life and you wind up like, foaming at the mouth in a ditch somewhere, like, because you're just addicted to.
guy playing Peggle.
And I'll be honest, I am grateful they limit your lives because I'll only play it for like
4 hours.
4 hours instead of constantly and never put
That's
it down.
the balance between all the other stuff, like the all work no play ethic is outdated. You need to have a little bit of salsa on the side. You have to have some zest. You have to have a dance party every now and then. You have to have time for prayers. You have to have time for taking bath. You have to have time for your friends. Like, that's the beauty
Yeah.
of it,
And I think
like you
that's
have to
something-
be able to just numb your mind out and just be like
And the one
so
she
what?
mentions that's the best, and she's the leader of it, is the dance party. Mel will come home from where we're a bunch of dudes sitting around. Just Mel will show up, blasting her music in her car, jump out, put something on the the Bluetooth out here, and just start dancing. Next thing you know, we're all dancing in the driveway. Boom, dance party.
Yeah, I think we certainly need like those moments. I mean, like it wouldn't be worth like living life if you didn't have those moments of escape and like total freedom and just doing something like that. That's
That for me, you just said it. I wanted to have a life where it wasn't escape to be in that moment anymore. Like, it wasn't opposite my life to be at a show and be high. It was my life. It was what I did. It wasn't opposite anymore. It wasn't away. And I think that all of us out there, we have the ability to make things the way we want them. I think a lot of it has to do with what we've been sold and misconceptions we have about the way things work. And just, I think if anything you're going to get out of all the talk that we've had today is that you can do anything you fucking want, man. Do your shit, because if you've had the idea, that's yours. Go do it. Don't be afraid.
You know who was a big inspiration that I forgot about till just right now was Dee Ontwood. They were a huge inspiration in moving to Portland and in the confidence that it took to continuously speak our truth on the show and not have panic attacks every time we said something.
Do you know who they are, Mike?
No. Who? What was the name again?
D'Antwoord. They're DIE and then ANTWOORD.
So,
Oh yeah, I know them.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah,
Really?
Ninja
Oh,
and
yeah.
Yolandi.
Huge impact on me
Ninja.
and Mel.
Oh shit. Okay.
Yeah.
Like Ninja and Yolandi impacted me in such a way that it was like a Grateful Dead or a Radiohead experience.
Wait, how? So, can you explain that a little bit more? That's really interesting because I know them, and I mean I don't know them personally, but I mean I've seen their work and like watched their
Apple
video.
turned me on to them before we left Vegas, and it was like, you got to see this fucking video. These people are a trip.
Just so
There's
different.
definitely nobody like them.
No, and it's in your face honesty.
Yep. And so I started digging into who they were because it intrigued me. There was a lot of like magical symbolism in their stuff, and they were just out there. And I realized what they're about. Their whole Zeph thing is exactly what the Grateful Dead is exactly what everything we've been talking about today. It's being true to yourself no matter what the world or society tells you. I'm going to fucking cut my bangs straight across and shave the back of my head. I'm going to have black eyeballs. And, if that's what you want, fucking do it. Who gives a shit what anybody says?
And they're cute. They don't eat meat, and they're healthy, and they love on each other.
And they won't sign to a record label. They could care less about the industry. They do their own thing. They've turned down so many offers of ways to like blow up around the world, and they're like, "Fuck you. We are Zeph
huge
Life.
inspiration.
Wow.
We are who we are, and deal with it."
And I honestly Ninja's my spirit animal.
Uh-huh.
I love him. I think he's rad. I love his style, his flow, and just the way that the thing is I'm like in myself, like my natural state. I love to be like soft spoken and mild mannered, but then I love to like explode and like dance and be crazy, and his style matches my style. Like that's exactly how I would do it if I were him. And he's just rad. And so I feel like in my version, that's how I live my life with my family. Like my Zeph style.
Zeph, baby.
And it's cool. You want to see Mel fucking move. All you got to do is throw on D'Antwoord and she's fucking get out of the way.
Nice. Yeah, it's amazing. And yeah, like they're so unique and there's no one like them, and all that stuff is like you just don't hear that anymore, like turning down label offers and stuff. And when someone's out there doing that, it's like a fucking like it's permission to say like to everyone else like you can do this too. It's like this can happen. Yeah.
One of my favorite things is the Kanye and fucking Drake tried to kind of grab onto them and promote them, and Ninja was straight up like, "Fuck you guys! Why do you even want to talk to me? I don't like you. You don't like me. You're trying to make money out of this. Piss off."
Right. Yeah. No, good for them. That's the way. That's be in my
They're
opinion.
not playing that game.
And that's the example of somebody just being themselves, affecting change out in the world. Like they don't know us.
Their
Fucking,
own
I never
version.
met them, but they changed our life. They gave us. Seeing them gave me the courage to do what we did by moving to Portland.
And they are a spectacle to see. If you
Oh my
haven't,
God.
if you ever
One
get a
of my
chance to
favorite
see
concerts.
D'Antwoord, oh my God, you talk about energy. It's like a fucking high impact aerobics class for fucking 2 hours.
Wow. All right, put it on the list. I got it down. Yeah, I mean, this is great stuff, guys. And like, you're talking about like Aaron, like, creating your own reality. And, earlier you mentioned something about magic and ritual and stuff. And like, I was like, yeah, let's talk about that. Let's talk about that. What's going on with that? I'm interested to learn like how you got involved with that, and then like what that looks like, and how that sort of practice or those things have helped you on your way. Like, the use of magic and ritual.
Well, like I talked about when getting off the street, going to the born again Christian church and all that. And before that, I had 4 older brothers. One of them passed away, and one of my older brothers was really into Crowley and magic growing up, and he was somebody that I looked up to. My brother, like, you know, you look up to your older brothers, and he was also a junkie, and he's the one that introduced me to magic, and so it had been a part of my life ever since I was in junior high school, like, you know, seeing symbolism on record covers and, you know, all the stuff that we grew up with in the 80s and 90s, like it was integrated into pop culture at the time. And for me, like, it was really intriguing. It wasn't like for power or any of that. I just wanted to know what it all meant. You know what I mean? I felt like there was like this secret
Don't let him lie to you guys.
secret language going on that I could learn about. And so
I want to interject something too, because you were drawn to it from we known each other our whole life, so you were drawn to it at a very young age. I remember you and one of our friends, Doug, were very into looking at books of black magic, all kinds of things, and it kind of turned me on. He always had a thirst for it, and it was brought to it by his brother, who is a wise, cool person.
And so when I got older, after Mel and I left that whole scene and
what scene
at church and all that, like I was gravitated back to my roots and joined an order called the Ordo Templi Orientis, the OTO, back in 2008, and went through their initiatory process. And you know, like, you see like stuff about the Masons and all the conspiracy stuff about them, and like initiation of the degrees in Masonry and all that. And I always wondered if there was something to it. So in my mind, I was like, well, fuck it. I'm going to do it and find out. Like, same thing with going on the road with the dead. Like, fuck it. I'm going to do it and find out what it's about. So I did the same thing with that. And, you know, going through that, I would hear stories from other people as I'm going through the degrees of like them having these amazing transitional experiences and these profound life. And it just wasn't happening for me. And I was, you know, like, okay, well, I'm just going to stick it out. Like, I'm going to see what's going to happen. And the end of the initiatory process that you can voluntarily go through in the OTO is the 4th degree and then PI, which is perfect initiated. And they happen at the same time. You do those degrees at the same time. And I did them, and they symbolize annihilation, basically, in a soul being annihilated and then reintegrated back into the world. And I went and did the initiation, and the next day, my entire world fell apart. Like, having problems at my job, me and Mel were on the rocks all of a sudden. Having problems with my kids. I was at home, like, everything that had given me comfort in the past didn't fucking fit anymore. And like, I was looking at my clothes in the closet, and it looked like it was somebody else's shit in there. Like, and I realized, like, oh my God, this thing is real. This process that I've been going through for the past 6 years finally did its work. And it was at that point that I realized, like, I have to put myself back together now, and I can do anything I want. I can put myself back together any way I choose and put the pieces back how I want them instead of what was imposed on me through nature and nurture. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So magic gave me that gift through the initiatory process. And dude, I'll tell you, it's not for everybody. That's not something that, you know, it's like taking a heroic dose of mushrooms or smoking a huge dose of DMT. It can blast you apart, and that's not for everybody. But for me, I've found that practice really altered my life and helped me get to where I am right now. And at this point in my life, like, it's just become part of who I am. There's no like I'm not wearing a black robe and standing in the middle of a pentagram anymore. But
Yeah.
but it's part of who I am, and those things that I learned through that have become part of how I move and shape the world. I mean, I pay attention to, you know, astrology and symbolism and sigil magic, and all that stuff is part of No Simple Road. And I mean, if you look at the logo for our
Yeah.
show, it's integrated into it, and it's just part
Right.
of who we are. So-
Yeah, yeah, and it's like, you know, you went through the all these experiences. I think it's like it's still building. It's like forming. You're not one identity. You're not one thing, but
No.
all these experiences, all this learning is informing you and creating
Yeah.
new stuff. So,
Mhm.
yeah, that's awesome.
Cool, man.
Well, I think, you know, we're at like 2 hours now. I think
Yeah, I know.
we're coming to
We're
the end.
starving, Mike. I'm starving.
I love you guys for spending time with me. I just have
brother.
one last like round that I want to do, and then I'll relinquish you from the freezing cold depths of the porch. I'm curious to know, like, it could be either your first psychedelic experience or, you know, the most profound psychedelic experience that you had, and if you want to share that, that'd be really cool.
Okay, Aaron's pointing at me, so this is Apple. I'll go first. Okay, I would say most profound, like that aha moment for me was when I went to my first Grateful Dead show that Aaron got me to go to, the Silver Bowl in Las Vegas. I went there in the parking lot. I was very skeptical, like I said before. I didn't want to be there, but I knew my brother found something that I had to check out. And in the parking lot, I remember I ate a bag of mushrooms, like an eighth of mushrooms, was just chomping on them to, you know, Aaron's like, dude, you need to do this. Trust me. And I was like, okay, yum, 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 yum. Go inside. On the way in, we get to our group of friends down on the floor, which then I learned like about the fill. It's like we're in the fill zone. I didn't know what that was. I later found out what the fill zone was when that bass is just pounding you in your chest and you can hardly breathe. And so what my moment was there, I took a hit of acid also on top of that, because what do you do when you're
'Cause
tripping
why
out on
not?
mushrooms? You take more
Yeah,
drugs.
that's what you do. Yeah.
So it was when Drums in Space came on. I started to dance and getting into it, and Aaron's smiling at me, and he's seeing that I'm getting it, and everybody like sits down during Drums in Space. Well, I stood up, and I didn't even realize it until Aaron like pointed. I was one of like those like a dozen, maybe 20 people in the whole stadium that's just dancing their ass off to drums, and that's the moment that hit me, and then it went into Fire on the Mountain. And that is still
Nice.
my jam, because that's the song that really pulled me out of what I was and showed me there was something else. And, you know, that, and so, you know, Scarlet Fire, it's Scarlet Fire. It was Scarlet, Begonias, and then into Fire on the Mountain. And that just, to this day, it changed my life. It made me a different person. It brought that magic into my world and reconnected me with my brother. That we had, hadn't been that close for a couple years because I didn't get it. He was already there. And that I really was high and walked out of there, and that high has carried on with me to this day.
30 years.
Nice.
Mel,
Me?
Ryder?
Okie doke. I would have to say the most profound one would actually be my trip to. I saw Tool at the Gorge, and it was like we were just talking about magic and all that, and I'd been kind of getting into that whole thing, and weird things had been happening, and like I made my keys appear out of my closet one time. Lost 'em. And little things like that, but that was the first time that like it was real. Like I saw them, and they opened a portal to another place, and something came through and pulled my brain into that portal, into that other place, and I sat there and talked with it, and then it spit me back out right into my body, and I landed on the grass in the gorge, and it was just
Sounds fun.
it was amazing.
Awesome. Sounds like perfect bliss.
It really was. But I mean, it
Good
was
old
like
Tool.
it wasn't bliss. It was grungy for sure. It was
A little bit dirty.
It was
Hands.
dark. I'm used to. Most of my trips have been at like Dead shows where it's all happy and do.
No, Tool comes at it from a different
Yeah,
angle.
Tool.
Yeah.
Chewed me up and spit me out, but in the best possible way.
Nice.
Are we talking about the what?
Our
Psychedelic-
most profound
Either
psychedelic
your
experience.
first psychedelic
most-
experience, or
Yeah,
most
or
profound.
first
Well, my-
time or the best.
One of my
whatever.
most profound was actually on at a Burning Man regional in Las Vegas. I think it might have been like the year before we left Vegas, and we had met these friends there, and I couldn't sleep. It was like 6 a.m. the next day, and I'm roaming around, this like Las Vegas. It's already 100 something degrees at like 6 a.m. in Vegas in the desert, and I went to my friend's trailer, and he and I.
Oh, there's Darwin.
Darwin's
See,
excited.
Darwin. Him and Sam are playing over there.
Come here.
He's
Darwin.
riled up, and we did salvia, and I had probably the most orgasmic laughter I've ever experienced. I didn't even know to put those two things together, but I laughed so hard. And it was one of the first times that had happened to me where I couldn't stop laughing, and it felt so good. And like the plant put me down. Like I had visuals, I had all these amazing things, and it was such a short duration of time, but it impacted me. It etched a spot in my emotional brain,
An imprint.
and it impacted me like forever. And I won't throw this in there, but just another DMT with the laughter experience. Like for me, somehow or another, when I'm in that state, I feel blessed enough to get these fits of laughter that like almost come from like
She laughs crazy.
it's
like
crazy.
And she had full on glossolalia. She was speaking another language, literally.
Oh my god!
And
I've been there.
and it was crazy. And then came down and took another hit of salvia and started speaking it again.
And I had that
Wow.
same exact word in
Barchin.
Barchin.
in my in like I couldn't stop saying everything was that word, and that word was everything. And I couldn't say anything else because that's what it was. So yeah, that was my most profound. And it had nothing to do with music. It had all to do with just
Plant.
that nature.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow.
This morning, sitting here on the porch talking to you. No.
It's that Quaalude in 7th grade.
About
Luke, dude.
2 years ago, here at the house, smoking DMT in Apple's room.
Oh yeah, that.
I had always heard about people breaking through on DMT, and I thought I had, and I did. I actually did that night, and went through that veil of psychedelic geometric shapes, and it exploded, and then I was in that place of machinery and color and light, and there was someone there that was waiting for me, and started downloading stuff into me. And at the time I was close to 300 pounds and really sick in my body and in my head, a lot of like just anxiety and trauma and stuff from the past, and started taking all that stuff and removing it, and showed me how to breathe, and it gave me my own yoga, which sounds really weird now,
Oh my
but
gosh, Mike, the craziest shit. So like he's going through his DMT trip, and we'd all like taken turns, and he was the last one, and so he laid back, and he automatically put his fingers in a mudra, and it's in Gyan mudra, and he's doing that perfectly, has his arms up at the exact same height, at the exact angle, in perfect Gyan mudra, like in yoga position, and this is not likely for Aaron. That's not something that he.
I don't remember it.
Yeah,
And
and there's a picture of that too. I took a picture of that.
Yeah, we all
it's like that getting back to like you talking another language and then doing this mudra.
Yeah.
And these are very kind of like, ancient, kind of infinite, eternal, symbolic things, right?
So I just remember it like you've done DMT before. It's like trying to describe a dream to somebody else. What I'm telling you is not the fullness of the experience, but like,
Oh yeah, of course.
having it was showing me how to breathe and like how to move my body correctly. And then I thought I was coming out of it, and I opened up my eyes, and the dog was sitting next to me, and the pipe was on the table, and I was like, oh shit, the dog's tail's going to knock the pipe off the table. And I got up because I thought it was over to move the pipe, and it hit me again. And I remember it showing me how it was going to feel to be 110 pounds lighter. Like, I could feel the body that I'm in now inside of that body, like a fat suit in a movie. And like moving across the room, being like, "Oh shit!" And within a year of that trip, I lost all the weight and
Started the
podcast and
kicked the Hep C
and got cured of hepatitis C.
Oh wow! Holy shit!
So
Yeah, and you were trying to bail on class early, and the teacher was like, "Hey man, you're not done here.
you, man, sit down.
Yeah, sit down. You got more to learn."
Yeah.
You nailed it, Mike. That's
Totally.
exactly-
I love that.
Sit down, fatso. Yeah, dude. And I heard McKenna say, like, he's asked, like, what's your favorite psychedelic? And he's like, DMT. And they're like, when's the last time you did it? He's like, 1967. And I never understood that, but I get it now. Like, I haven't done it since, and it's not because I'm afraid or I don't have any need. I'm still unpacking that trip.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There's a lot of unpacking to do for sure. I mean, I spent 4 months living with shamans in the Amazon jungle in Peru, drinking ayahuasca, and like.
Yeah, we're about this in our basement. Like, what was that like?
Wait, what?
What was that like?
Oh well, that was. I mean, it was amazing. It was a great experience, and yeah, I'd be happy to talk about it more, but it's like there's a lot to say about it, but it was phenomenal. It was amazing. And but like I've done DMT once, well, that's not true. Vaped DMT a couple times. And then those ayahuasca experiences, there are DMT experiences in a different form. But I reached a point where it was like, it's time to come home. It's like, dude, your work right now with this is good. Like, you got like a lot of shit that you opened the closet, and like all the junk that you've been like hiding in your house, like, has been in there. You gotta unpack all that stuff, organize it, clear it out. And yeah.
Yeah, I get it. 100%. Yep. Unpack the luggage.
That's right. Yeah. Well, guys, man, this has been awesome. I got to say, this has been like one of my favorite conversations. Apple, Ryder, Melanie, Darwin, Sam, who I don't even hear from, but apparently is there. You guys all, Aaron, you guys all, you performed the lines of the script I sent you perfectly. So thanks for playing the characters that we're playing.
This is a good read. We're going to do this live tomorrow, right? Oh, no.
Yeah, we're taking
We'll
it to live.
ready to go. Dude, Mike, thank you so much for making this happen, for asking us to do this and facilitating this. This was a very good experience, another therapeutic session, like, for everybody involved.
Yeah, well, thanks for creating what you create and being who you are. I wouldn't have reached out to you otherwise. So keep doing that. Yeah.
If you come up to Portland, you got a home here, man.
And,
Awesome. I definitely will.
You said you have cousins up here in the cannabis industry. Tell them to listen, reach out to us. I always love to meet new people up here, especially in the industry.
And stay in touch, man. It doesn't have to be about the podcast. You've got friends and family here now.
Yeah, totally. I just moved to Denver 2 months ago, so
We'll be in Denver this year.
yeah. Likewise, you guys are more than welcome here. I have an apartment, not a house, but kitchen. We have a really good area.
Let me down for fish.
Nice, yeah. Oh man, I'm really going to the rocks. I can't wait. Hey, I hope you guys enjoyed that conversation as much as I did. Hope you guys like these podcasts and enjoy them. And if you do, please spread the podcast, share it, tell a neighbor, tell a coworker, tell a friend, tell a cat, tell a mouse, tell a dog, tell an ant, tell a firefly, tell whoever you tell. Share it, spread it, like it, all that good stuff. If you really love the show, you want to go a step further, you really want to help us out, leave a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts, and go to patreon.com, Patreon/Mike Brank, and patreon.com/Mike Brank, and you can donate as little as $1 a month, $2 a month, whatever you want. Help support the show that way as well. But remember, I love you guys no matter what you do. I just love that you tune in and you enjoy these podcasts. Message me. I like hearing feedback. Get in touch with me on Instagram, Psychedelic Podcast, Mike Brank on Facebook as well. And thanks to our sponsors, Synchro and Hemp Bombs. If you want a discount on ketogenic and plant-based nutrition products, go to Synchro and type in the code Mycadelic at checkout to get 20% off. And they have amazing ketogenic chocolate fudge called Keto Mana that I have all the time because it has like no sugar and carbs in it, so it's great, and it's delicious. And if you want CBD, go to hempbombs.com and get 15% off all your CBD needs, I guess, and just enter the code Mike15 at checkout. But thank you once again to everybody. Thanks to Danny Barnett and Galaxia for the music, the intro and the outro. I love you all. Peace.